my outwardly proper ex-girlfriend. Hands off, no hugs allowed. It was strictly look but don't touch. Who would have guessed that behind closed doors she was actually a captivating vixen? I woke up one morning to find her 9 fluffy tails brushing against me. She murmured, "If you want a hug, just hug. Stop dithering about." I'd been dating the campus belle, Victoria Ashwood, for half a year, and I was sick of it. The reason? She was too prim and proper, coolly reserved, almost abstinent. Every time I tried to touch her, it felt like I was performing some kind of charitable act, like ministering to the needy. If I tried to hold her hand in public, she'd pull away, saying, "We're in public. We must maintain decorum." If I went in for a hug, she'd refuse, murmuring, "That's unseemly." Kissing? Absolutely impossible. Her face would darken as she'd declare it scandalous. So for as long as I dated Victoria Ashwood, I basically lived like a monk. Finally, after the umpteenth time my attempts at closeness were rejected, I snapped. I broke up with her right then and there. You shouldn't be dating anyone. Go find some prayer beads and contemplate life. This is boring at that. Victoria frowned slightly and replied, "What prayer beads? Those are for nuns." Exactly, I shot back. Put them to good use. They suit you perfectly. With that, I stormed out. Victoria was already used to this. She simply lowered her head and continued writing her thesis. I slammed the door on my way out. She didn't even flinch. It was always like this. Victoria never argued, never threw tantrums, never got emotional. Whenever we fought, she would sit quietly to the side, looking aloof, waiting for me to cool down. I often wondered why she even dated me. Yet she always remembered all my preferences, arranging everything at home with gentle meticulousness. I immediately called my buddy, Daniel Miller. I broke up with her. "We're going out tonight." "You dumped her?" Daniel sounded shocked, the fizz from his drink nearly spraying out of the phone. "Sincere Clark, are you out of your mind?" "Dude, it's Victoria Ashwood. The confession boards blew up the moment she arrived freshman year. Good grades, maxes out on scholarships, no vices, and you dumped her?" I nodded, annoyed. "So what if she's beautiful? So what if she's smart? She's look, but don't touch. What's the point?" He countered. "Victoria's emotionally inexperienced. Maybe it's normal that she doesn't know how to do relationship stuff." "Normal, my foot," I grumbled. "She doesn't want to know, forget holding hands or hugging. She always looks at me like I'm some kind of alien species." "Still, Sincere Clark," Daniel said after taking a sip of his drink, "are you really okay with this? You chased her for so long. Everyone knows about you two. And now, after just 6 months, it's over?" "It's better than dragging it on," I replied, looking down, a bitter taste in my mouth. "Honestly, I feel like she doesn't even like me. Look, since I broke up with her, not a single call. Buzz, buzz, buzz." My phone rang. It was Victoria. Daniel smirked knowingly. "See? Lovers quarrel. Make up already." Feeling my face flush, I answered the call. Before I could speak, her voice came through, exceptionally clear. "Your clothes from last night haven't been washed. Come back and get them. And that pile of sneakers is taking up too much space." I grabbed the phone and yelled, "I don't want them, throw them out, Victoria Ashwood, and I don't want you either. I'm sick of it." I slammed the phone down. Victoria must be crazy. After a moment of silence, Daniel poured me a drink and muttered, "Vicious woman." I blocked Victoria Ashwood and deleted all her contact information. Then, I plunged into the dance floor. The bar pulsed with neon lights and booze, the atmosphere fermenting my emotions. I'm not bad looking. In fact, I'd made a few appearances on the campus confession boards myself. So it wasn't long before I was dancing closely with a girl. "Alone?" she asked with a smile. "My friend's over there," I replied, but my gaze suddenly drifted past her, spotting someone familiar. That person looked remarkably like Victoria Ashwood. "Come back with me." It really was Victoria. But now her face was thunderous. She wore an out-of-place white shirt and gripped my arm tightly. I pulled away. "Stop it. I told you I dumped you." "Sincere Clark," she retorted, her face darkening further. "You said I was boring. So coming to a place like this is exciting? Well, yeah. At least they let me kiss them, you don't. Victoria's expression grew even stormier. She asked, "Kissing makes it exciting?" Fueled by liquid courage, I blurted out, "Not just kissing, hugging to hug however I want. If I had known the price I'd pay for those words, I would have said them much sooner." Because the next second, the world started spinning. What was happening? Just before I inexplicably passed out, I heard her dragging me away, muttering fiercely, "You just wait." When I woke up, I almost thought I'd time traveled. Before me was a scene steeped in ancient charm. Lotus-shaped lamps glowed on the stone walls, casting a dim, quiet light. There was a large wooden bed with a red canopy embroidered with lotus flowers. Looking around, I noticed lotus motifs on nearly all the furniture. The stone room was empty. I fumbled for my phone beside the pillow. No signal. I shivered and pulled the covers tighter around me, calling out, "Victoria Ashwood?" She answered, her voice lazy, drawn out. The next second, she was sitting beside me. "Sincere Clark," I gasped, because I saw them 9 fluffy foxtails swishing behind Victoria Ashwood. She narrowed her eyes, leaning closer. Her fox ears brushed against my hair. "Exciting enough now?" She gave me no time to react, grabbing my hands and placing them on her waist. I lay flat on the low bed as Victoria's foxtails encircled me. The fluffy touch on any exposed skin sent strange sensations through me. Victoria seemed like a different person now, leaning down to gently sniff my shoulder. Her breathing was shallow, faint, making my heart pound. "Victoria, what's wrong?" The languid fox lifted her eyes, then smiled. She pulled me over onto my stomach, her fingertips tracing patterns on my back. "Sincere Clark. Still bored now?" The stone room had no windows. The lotus lamps flickered, casting shifting shadows on Victoria's stunning face. The fox ears didn't make her look cute. Instead, they gave her an incredibly bewitching aura. I was momentarily speechless, just swallowing hard. "Damn," she hummed softly in my ear, her voice trembling slightly. "Why aren't you talking? I remember you said in the bar that just kissing wasn't exciting enough. You wanted hugs too. Hug anywhere, everywhere. And if touching wasn't enough, maybe you also wanted Victoria." I stopped her questing fingers, feeling more nervous than ever. "You've changed yesterday. You weren't like this, oh?" She looked at me innocently. "How was I? Yesterday you were practically a nun, today you're a temptress. A fox spirit from a saint who found kissing and hugging utterly sinful. She'd transformed into a 9-tailed fox who looked like she could devour me whole with just a glance." A faint, intricate marking, red and mesmerizing, appeared on Victoria's forehead. Her gaze on me deepened. Then, her voice low, she asked, "Knowing I'm a fox spirit, you still talk to me like this?" She wore a thin, white nightgown that hinted at the curves beneath. I wanted to back away, but I couldn't move. Victoria's eyes darkened further. "Sincere Clark. So now you—" I cut her off before she could finish. "Get lost." The atmosphere instantly froze. Her face went cold, then shifted to astonishment in the next second. I continued. "So you were pretending all along? Acting so high and mighty around me, but secretly you're a fox spirit? Was I just part of your game? When I broke up with you, you said nothing. When I left, you told me to come back and pack my stuff. So why did you even agree to date me in the first place? Even a condemned man deserves to know why, even if I die today, I want to die knowing the truth." I turned my head away, trying to act indifferent, but I couldn't truly be indifferent to her. I didn't understand why she'd treated me this way, and why she was suddenly so forward. I was furious, wishing I had a magic gourd to trap her in. "Victoria Ashwood, you bastard," I cursed. Victoria's movements ceased. I could clearly sense her confusion. It was the first time I'd ever made her feel unsure, but then I quickly felt pathetic again, a single micro-expression from her, and I was already making excuses for her. Her fox ears drooped, her eyes filled with hurt, and tears began to fall as she looked at me without a word. I clenched my jaw. Victoria Ashwood, I don't care if you're human or fox. What are your feelings for me? 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Victoria visibly hesitated. My brow furrowed. Without another word, I roughly pushed her off the bed. Get out, you fake fox. Stop pretending to be pitiful. I'll just lie here. Kill me or cut me up. Do whatever you want. After Victoria left, I drifted off into a hazy sleep on the bed. When she left, she didn't even look back at me. She walked slowly and even closed the door behind her. But I saw her again in my dreams. Not the cold Victoria from before, nor the aggressive one from tonight, but a soft, gentle version. She carefully lay beside me, unable to speak a word. Her 9 tails wagged, eventually wrapping around me, warm and comforting, accompanied by her light, cautious kisses. Even in my dream, I was still indignant, silently pushing her away. But she just held me tighter, saying, "Let's not break up, okay?" In the dream, I asked, "Well, do you like me or not?" And again she fell silent. The anger woke me up. But when I woke, there was indeed a fluffy foxtail curled in my arms. Several other tails were tucked behind my back, under me, and I even had a leg thrown over one. And when I opened my eyes, besides the tails, there was Victoria's peaceful sleeping face, looking inexplicably docile. I was stunned. Why hadn't I noticed how huge, fluffy, and soft her tails were yesterday? I shifted slightly, and her tail pressed closer against me. Victoria's nightgown was loose, revealing her collarbone and a patch of skin. A startling scar extended partially into view. I reached out, my fingers about to touch it. "Why are you pushing my tail away?" A soft voice interrupted. "Is it because you want to touch me?" Victoria was awake, and her words were startling. "Go ahead, touch until you're satisfied, then stop being angry with me." I turned my back to her in frustration. "Is that all you think I want?" "You were staring," she retorted simply. "Victoria Ashwood, I want to go back." Victoria was silent for a long moment. I stewed in my anger for a while too. "If you don't answer, I'll take that as agreement to let me go back." "No," she finally said. I froze. Then I felt pressure on my waist as she hugged me tightly, her tails wrapping around me too. She rubbed her fluffy ears against me and continued, "I don't want you to go back. Don't you always complain we never have time together? The world outside the fox den is interesting. We can stay here for a while." Victoria had never spoken to me like this, never pleaded with "I don't want" in such a plaintive way. Most of the time, she went along with my plans, always saying, "Whatever you say." My lips parted, but no words came out. She moved closer, then planted a very light kiss on my cheek. After kissing me, Victoria pulled back slightly, meeting my gaze. I stared at her. So she kissed me again, this time on the chin. Seeing no resistance or reaction, she pressed closer, her fluffy tails enveloping us both. The room was quiet except for our soft breathing. Chin, nose-tip, eyes, brow. Finally, her lips brushed mine, retreated, then pressed against them again. This was, arguably, our first real kiss. Victoria pulled back slightly, her gaze lowered. Looking heartbroken, she whispered, "Don't break up, Sincere Clark. Please don't break up, okay?" She was begging me not to break up with her. My mind was a mess. I didn't know what to say, so I clumsily changed the subject. "Did you not sleep well last night?" There were faint dark circles under her eyes. Victoria acknowledged. "You were clutching my tail. I couldn't sleep. I looked down. Sorry," I mumbled. Victoria didn't say anything, just watched me, as if waiting for something. After a moment, she sighed. I forgive you." Then she sat up, pulling her tails to one side. I was lying down and started to sit up too. Wait. A cool sensation touched my ankle, followed by a soft, clear jingle. Her small hand firmly gripped my calf. Her hand was pale, slender, and beautiful, but now it looked indescribably alluring. Looking down, I saw a tiny silver bell strung on a silver ring, now fastened around my ankle. It chimed softly with every movement. "There," she said, releasing my leg. "What are you doing? Take it off. What is this? Why put this on me? Am I a dog? How can a grown man like me walk around with this thing jingling?" It's embarrassing, I don't care, Victoria said, looking pitiful, her voice laced with a heart-wrenching plea. This way, no matter where you go, I can find you. Sincere Clark, you can't take it off. Can't we discuss this? But Victoria was gone, vanishing just as I was about to call her back. I sat on the bed and experimentally shook my leg. The bell chimed softly. So embarrassing. I had to find her and get this thing off immediately. The fox den was truly vast. I wandered through the tunnels for a long time before finally finding my way out. Outside the den entrance, daylight flooded the area. The courtyard was filled with various flowers and plants that seemed otherworldly. Not far off stood an exceptionally tall and lush pagoda tree. Victoria was sitting beneath it on a mat, a low table before her laid out with tea and ink wash painting supplies. She was bent over her painting, not looking up, her tail spread out behind her, twitching playfully. I took a step forward. The bell jingled again. Victoria finally looked up. Why aren't you wearing shoes? What do you think? This woman did it on purpose. The shoes I'd worn to the bar, the ones I found ruined by the bed when I woke up, I knew exactly who was responsible. Victoria surveyed me with a sly look, her gaze lingering on my bare feet and the silver bell on my ankle. Come here. No way. If you don't come here, I'll just teleport you back inside. The thought of walking barefoot through those long tunnels again sent a cold sweat down my back. I was wrong, Your Highness. Please be merciful. I'm coming right over the next second. The world spun. When I opened my eyes, I was already sitting at the stone table. Victoria hadn't changed her posture with the brush. She gently took my hand. I tried to pull away, but she held fast. Don't move. The cool, fine tip of the brush traced lines on my palm, stirring strange feelings within me. Victoria kept her head slightly bowed, long lashes fluttering. Her narrow fox eyes, usually holding unfathomable depths, now replaced by intense concentration. Soon a painting graced my palm, a lifelike lotus, sketched with just a few deft strokes. Victoria put down the brush and blew gently on the ink. There, don't smudge it. As I started to pull back, she stood up. If you smudge it, I'll just paint it on your face. We stayed in the fox den for 3 days. When we left, it turned out the entrance was hidden behind a barrier on the hill behind the park. My phone finally regained signal. Holding it felt like returning from another world. Victoria Ashwood, I muttered. So you really are a cave woman. A fox's hearing is extremely sharp. Victoria simply chose to ignore me. Let's go. 3 days have passed. The break's over. The fall break was 7 days long. I'd spent 3 days arguing with Victoria, 1 day broken up, and another 3 days holed up in the fox den. It actually felt strangely domestic, like an old married couple. I glanced down at my bare ankle. Victoria naturally took my hand. It disappears once you leave the barrier, she explained. Otherwise, it would interfere. I let out a sigh of relief and slowly tightened my grip on her hand. Over these past few days, Victoria kissing me had become increasingly natural. But the unanswered question, do you like me, remained a thorn in my side. And that thorn dug deepest when I got a call from Daniel Miller and saw the campus forums. What happened at the bar Victoria dragging me out had been exposed. Videos, photos, everything. The comments were flying. No way, Sincere Clark is that wild. After chasing her so passionately, I feel so bad for the campus belle. What kind of scum sneaks around behind his girlfriend's back? Does he have any morals? Poor Victoria, it hasn't even been that long, and he's already cheating on her. If you ask me, they should just toss him in the river. Let him know how it feels to capsize. Seriously unbelievable. It was all overwhelmingly negative towards me. Daniel, unsure if Victoria and I were actually broken up or not, hadn't been able to reach me. So the situation had just kept escalating. I scrolled through the forum, my frown deepening. Why was everyone blaming me? Then I saw comments like these, "Don't worry guys, Victoria definitely doesn't like him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dragged him out like a sack of potatoes." Yeah, Sincere Clark totally looks like a regular at those places. He seems like the type to be a gigolo. Agreed. I'm in the same class as Victoria. I've never seen her actively seek out her boyfriend. He was always the one pursuing her relentlessly. Go ask Victoria Ashwood yourselves if you don't believe it. Besides, this news has been out for days. Have you seen her say a single word? Reading this, I couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. They were right. Outside the fox den, Victoria was always on her phone. It had been a full day since we left the barrier. She went back to her apartment, I went back to my dorm. She hadn't sent a single call, not one text message, nothing. I tried to console myself. Maybe she's busy with her thesis, but then I clicked into my social media feed. Her profile picture had a little red dot. I looked closer. She had just shared a scientific article mere moments ago. I stared at the screen, feeling numb. Then I turned off my phone. Everything felt hollow. Liar fox, fake fox. She just wanted to kiss me, drain my life force. Lying there, a wave of sadness washed over me. I had thought spending 3 days in the fox den would change something. Turns out, it changed nothing at all. I recall the day Victoria accepted my confession. I hadn't expected it myself, nor had I expected it to happen the way it did. That day, I went to give her the breakfast I'd prepared, as usual, stopping her at the entrance of the academic building. She was about to refuse me, as usual, but I clumsily tripped right in front of her. The porridge spilled all over her pants. It was almost class time. People were bustling around. I frantically apologized, scrambling to clean up the mess on the ground. Whispers surrounded me. It's been so long, Sincere Clark still hasn't won her over? Someone like Victoria Ashwood is nice to look at, but actually chasing her? He could spill 100 bowls of porridge and it wouldn't be enough. The persistent suitor is hard at it again today, huh? Occasionally there were less friendly comments. I gritted my teeth, feeling like it was just an unlucky day. But then a hand helped me pick up the lunchbox. Victoria knelt down, ignoring the mess on her pants, and helped me clean up. Her voice was soft. Why do you do this every day? I paused, stunned. For you. She looked at me without speaking. When we had mostly cleaned up, she handed the lunchbox back to me. Our hands touched. Fueled by some unknown impulse, I asked directly, "Do you think I'm completely ridiculous?" She shook her head. My courage grew. Then, "Will you say yes, please? If you say yes, I won't have to work so hard." My voice wasn't loud, but the passing students heard, their murmurs increasing. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. She didn't answer. I felt increasingly awkward, my face burning red. I scrambled to my feet. "Sorry," I mumbled, grabbing the lunchbox and turning to flee. But she caught my wrist. Victoria still didn't speak, just fixed her captivating eyes on me. After a long moment, she took the lunchbox from me and said with something like a sigh, "Let's go." And just like that, we stumbled into a relationship. The more I thought about that memory, the more I felt that Victoria had only agreed out of pity, or maybe just convenience. Otherwise, why couldn't she bring herself to say she liked me? Coming to find me at the bar was probably just her fox possessiveness acting up. I needed to make a clean break. Otherwise, I was afraid I'd never be able to forget her. If I ignored her for a while, she'd probably give up, right? With that thought, I decisively put my phone on Do Not Disturb, determined to focus solely on hitting the books. Victoria contacted me again 3 days later. She'd finished her thesis. She called to ask what I'd been doing lately. 4 whole days, not a single text, and now she asks what I'm doing. I let it ring twice before finally picking up on the 3rd call. Her voice sounded muffled. "Why haven't you come over lately?" I used her own excuse against her. "Busy with my thesis. I'm not as brilliant as you, I still have a lot left." "Well, bring it over then," she said, an unprecedentedly proactive invitation. "I'll help you look at it." Normally, I would have been ecstatic, probably rushing over with my laptop immediately, like it cost nothing. But now, I knew with cold clarity that my relationship with Victoria was something I had forced. She might have pitied me back then, but now she probably just wanted physical closeness. Foxes are creatures of desire, after all. So I mumbled a few vague excuses and firmly refused her offer. I never expected that my excuse about being busy would turn into reality. You brat, I called you so many times you didn't pick up. I thought you disowned me as your aunt.
My Aunt Agnes Fletcher was over 40 but still quite formidable.
My Uncle Harold Fletcher was a heavy drinker who never listened to advice. A stroke was practically inevitable, which might explain why she didn't seem particularly grief-stricken. I held the breakfast I'd brought for them. I'd been coming to look after my uncle for several days now, and she brought up my missed calls every single day. Aunt Agnes's eyes darted around before she pulled me out into the hallway. Our family raised you for so many years, she whispered conspiratorially. We're not asking you to repay us, but now that we're in trouble, you should help out, right? I know your dad left you money. Definitely enough to live comfortably for the rest of your life. But now, Sincere Clark, Aunt Agnes has never asked you for anything. You need to be sensible. I bit my lip, silent. My mother died in childbirth. My father passed away a couple of years later. My grandma Eleanor Clark, living alone in the countryside, struggled to care for me, so she had no choice but to leave me with my aunt and uncle. For 10 years, besides letting me live in a tiny closet under the stairs and paying my school fees, they provided nothing else. I wore Uncle Harold's old clothes, did all the housework, and was even bullied by my cousin Dennis Fletcher. Sometimes, when Aunt Agnes was in a bad mood, she'd haul me over for a verbal lashing, calling me a jinx who would bring death upon the whole family, claiming that raising me would shorten their own lives. So starting in high school, I worked constantly. After my final exams, I gave her all the money I'd saved just to get some peace. I barely remembered my Uncle Harold, except that he always remained indifferent whenever Aunt Agnes yelled at me or hit me. Sincere Clark, you must have a lot of money stashed away, Agnes pressed. Give us half. Look at our family. Your uncle's useless now. What future do we have? I cut her off. I don't have any money left. Grandma Eleanor is alone in the countryside. My dad didn't leave much, and I gave it all to her. Silence hung in the air for 3 seconds. Then Aunt Agnes, furious, threw her purse directly at me. You ungrateful wretch, 10 years our family fed you, clothed you, and now that something happens, you give all the money to that damn old woman? Bah! Ungrateful wolf, go get out, you bad luck charm. You really will shorten our lives. Aunt Agnes clicked away on her high heels. Wordlessly, I threw the breakfast into the nearest trash can. A bit of a waste. I sat down on a bench in the hospital lobby. Outside, it started to rain. I took out my phone, opened the call interface, but hesitated just as my finger hovered over Victoria's number. 2 seconds later, I put the phone away. I didn't have an umbrella. I decided to wait for the rain to stop. The hospital bustled with people, each facing different circumstances. My phone died. I stared blankly at the floor. Sincere Clark? I looked up into a pair of slightly surprised eyes. It was a familiar-looking young doctor. It's me, she said, seeing my confusion, and sighed. I'm Evelyn Vance, I remembered. My high school crush. Back then, classmates whispered that she liked me too, but later she ended up dating the top math student in her class. After I changed my number, we lost contact. She crouched down to my eye level. Why are you at the hospital? Family? I nodded, not feeling much like talking. Which room? 13. She glanced at me. The man who had the stroke, that's your uncle? I thought she'd leave after asking, but unexpectedly she sat down beside me. He just came in a few days ago, she said softly. His condition isn't good. I sighed, saying nothing, just shaking my head. Evelyn Vance looked at me with a complicated expression. Then she said, If you're facing any difficulties, you can tell me. I shook my head again. Thanks, but I don't need help. Sincere Clark, are you still upset about what happened back then? I cut her off. No, I don't remember. But she grabbed my arm. Actually, back then, through the glass wall, out in the rain, someone was standing there. I froze, suddenly unable to hear anything, including Evelyn's explanation. It was Victoria Ashwood. She wasn't holding an umbrella. Her white shirt was soaked, clinging to her body, revealing the lines underneath. Water dripped from her dark hair. Her black eyes stared at me, making me uneasy. I saw her gaze slowly drop to Evelyn's hand gripping my arm. The next second, I reflexively pulled my arm away. When I looked back, Victoria was gone. I stared at Victoria's number on my phone screen for a long time, still hesitant to call. That look in her eyes, it made me feel guilty. After much deliberation, I went to her apartment building but hesitated again downstairs. Oh well, I had to face her eventually. The light in the first floor lobby was broken. I fumbled my way in the dark and pressed the elevator button. But in that instant, an invisible force pulled me. The world spun. A familiar scent, mixed with osmanthus flowers, filled my nose. A warm body pressed against mine. Victoria's shirt still held the damp chill of the rain. She stood on tiptoe, staring straight at me, her breath feeling incredibly hot against my skin. There was no escape. "She's just a high school classmate," I explained nervously. "Victoria Ashwood, there's nothing between us," her reply was sharp and decisive. "I don't believe you." Victoria's voice crackled with anger.
Why were you hiding from me? Not returning my texts? Not answering my calls?
Not telling me anything? If I had come any later, were you going to take her home? Answer me, Victoria Ashwood. Calm down first, I pleaded. Listen to me. There's really nothing between us then. Why didn't you push her away? I didn't have time. Victoria fell silent. The air grew heavy. Only then did I realize we were standing in the first-floor fire escape stairwell, the green emergency exit sign flickering nearby. Schlick, the sound of tearing fabric. I froze. My hand was seized, pressed accurately against warm, smooth softness, then guided down to the gentle curve of her waist. She pressed my hand firmly, her voice husky. Continue. I'll let you touch. You can do whatever you want. Just don't go looking for others. Panic seized me. Words tumbled out recklessly. No, I wasn't looking so you just don't want me, is that it? Victoria's grip on my wrist tightened. I could feel that the front of her shirt was now torn open. What on earth was happening? The next second, I was lifted off the ground. Victoria, the fox, used her magic to float me up and back to her apartment. Victoria Ashwood, you need to calm down, Sincere Clark. I don't want to listen. Stop talking. I wanted to cry, but had no tears. Where did the aloof fox who used to turn cold at the mere suggestion of a kiss go? I landed on the large bed, the bed I'd sat on countless times but was never allowed to sleep in. Now she was sitting on top of me. The mark on Victoria's brow glowed a bewitching red, mirroring the hazy look in her eyes, instantly making me feel incredibly virtuous by comparison. She started kissing me again, pleading softly. What else do you want? What more do you need so you won't break up? Tell me, Sincere Clark. Tell me, don't avoid it. I couldn't understand her intense obsession with this. Are all foxes this averse to being dumped? My breathing quickened. Gritting my teeth, I flipped us over, pinning her beneath me, and kissed her forcefully. Now it was Victoria's turn to be stunned. After I finished kissing her quite thoroughly, she was still in a state of shock. I cupped her face, speaking seriously. Now, listen to me. First, Victoria Ashwood, that woman and I are just classmates. Nothing happened. Second, the reason I ignored you these past few days is because my uncle was hospitalized. I was busy. Third, Victoria Ashwood, at first I didn't care if you liked me or if you were with me out of pity, but not anymore. Now, I need to know if you actually like me. I looked at her intently, watching as Victoria slowly regained her breath, becoming clearer. The mark on her forehead faded, returning her to her usual appearance. I ignored it, pressing on. Victoria Ashwood, last time, do you like me? This time her reaction was swift. She instantly leaned in and pecked my lips. I'd been kissed again. Her foxtails popped out from behind her, softly brushing against my body. Then came her low, earnest words. I like you. Suffice it to say, I won't elaborate on the rest of that night. That chapter was finally closed. I only just saw it. The people who had been slandering me online for the past couple of days had started apologizing. Apparently, Victoria Ashwood had tracked each of them down individually. Also, recently, some people reported seeing floating blue flames at night, scaring them sleepless. The ones who saw them were all people who had spoken ill of me. It wasn't hard to guess whose handiwork that was. I took Victoria to the hospital to visit my uncle, and, unsurprisingly, we were promptly kicked out by Aunt Agnes. So we ended up sitting side by side on that same bench, resting our chins on our hands. We waited for a long time, but my heartless Aunt Agnes didn't show up to put on airs. Instead, the person who had triggered the fox's dark turn that day appeared. Sincere Clark. Evelyn Vance stopped in front of us, then looked curiously at Victoria. "Is this your friend?" Victoria smoothly linked her arm through mine. I cleared my throat. I sighed inwardly. This fox's jealousy was really something. So I squeezed her hand reassuringly. "This is my girlfriend, Victoria Ashwood." Evelyn's smile turned awkward. "Hello." Victoria, however, beamed as if her tail was about to wag uncontrollably behind her. Hello." Evelyn made small talk for a few more minutes while Victoria, pushing her luck, began tracing patterns on my fingers. After about 10 minutes, Evelyn gave a brief update on my uncle's condition and left. Only then did Victoria slowly release my hand. She asked softly what I planned to do. Honestly, I didn't want to deal with it anymore. But Victoria clearly felt differently. She insisted stubbornly, "I'm worried that if this isn't resolved, it will weigh on your mind forever. You'll always feel like you owe them something." I patted her head gently. "You're very kind. But I think people should have some boundaries, not just endlessly give, hoping to change others with small acts of kindness. That's highly unlikely. I have my own code of conduct." I answer to myself and the law. Once I've fulfilled my obligations, I can live with a clear conscience. Other people's values won't make me feel guilty, because everyone's conscience is different. And Agnes won't feel guilty for violating my moral code, will she? Besides, if the sky falls, Dennis can prop it up. How they treated me is how I'll treat them. Thinking about our future together, I started taking on translation projects day and night. I'd already saved up a decent amount from working part-time jobs and scholarships over the years. As I got busier, we saw less of each other. Afraid the fox might go dark again, I moved back in with her. The sheets and duvet cover in my room had been changed, soft and comfortable. Except a certain little fox wasn't there. She said she needed to take care of some private business, so I didn't ask. Though I was supposedly there to keep her company. For the past few days, Victoria was only home at night. Today, she didn't even come back at night, though she'd left food for me in the fridge. That night, I slept alone as usual. I had a strange dream. In it, a fox kept following me. Everywhere I went, she went. If I took a wrong turn, she'd bite my clothes and pull me back. It was nice, except her face looked rather stern. The scene shifted. I saw Victoria Ashwood, her back to me, her white shirt wrinkled. I called her name. She slowly turned around, but there was blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. I woke up with a jolt of fear. The silver bell on my ankle, which had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, felt scorching hot. It had never been this hot before. My heart began to race. A heavy sense of unease washed over me. I quickly threw on some clothes and ran out. I went to the hill behind the park, to the entrance of the fox den. The clear ringing of the silver bell somehow opened the den's gate. The scene before me had transformed. The tall pagoda tree looked as if it had withered overnight, completely bare. The flowers in the courtyard were drooping and yellowed, and in the middle of the courtyard, on the flagstone path, lay a figure. It was Victoria Ashwood. Panic seized me. I rushed over and held her tightly. "Victoria Ashwood, what's wrong? What happened? Say something, don't scare me like this." Victoria Ashwood, get up. She was in human form, curled up tightly. As if hearing my voice, she slowly opened her eyes. "What happened?" I rejoiced. "I'll help you back inside to rest." A slightly youthful voice cut in. "Stop fussing over her, or the little fox really will kick the bucket." I turned around. Standing beside me was a pretty young woman with a high ponytail, casually chewing on a sprig of pagoda blossoms. The next second, she was right next to me. The girl spat out the flowers. "Take her inside," she ordered. "I'm that old pagoda tree. My name is Sylvia Thorne. I can save her." Sylvia Thorne was apparently older than the den itself. Inside, I saw the bleeding wound on Victoria's left chest. "What happened?" I demanded urgently. "You refused to give your Aunt Agnes money," Sylvia explained curtly. "So she took Dennis Fletcher to find your Grandma Eleanor and demanded. Your cousin's been spoiled rotten since he was a kid. He went crazy, started hitting her, trying to force her to tell him where the money was hidden. When your grandma wouldn't say, he lost his mind and hit her over the head with a stick. By the time the police arrived, your grandma was barely alive. After they got her to the hospital, Victoria used her own heart's blood to save her. I looked at the unconscious Victoria, filled with sorrow, unsure what to say. She was still asleep, weak from blood loss, but Sylvia assured me she wasn't in mortal danger, just needed rest. That evening, I helped Sylvia Thorne prepare medicine, sitting in the courtyard. The stone table under the pagoda tree was still there, but the ink wash painting was gone. Sylvia appeared and started talking to me. "That bell on your ankle, she gave it to you, right?" "Yes, why?" She looked exasperated. Truly something only a clueless fox missing a love thread would do. Others treasure their life thread, nurture it, feel it's never enough. She turns hers into a bell and makes you wear it on your ankle. Of all places, if you wore it around your neck, I could maybe understand. I froze. "What did you say?" Sylvia frowned. "Don't you know? That bell on your ankle is the fox's life thread, her fate. You literally hold her life and death in your hands now. If you get upset, she could just poof, gone. She doesn't have that love thread. She doesn't understand what love is. She didn't even cry when her parents died. So her clan saw her as an outcast and kicked her out. That's how she ended up living here with me, two lone souls. For millennia, she was like an iceberg. Thank goodness she brought you back, otherwise I might have started thinking she had impure motives towards me." Sylvia paused, looking me over. "But I bet you've had a rough time too. The stupid fox has been following you for over 20 years, which also means you've lost your memory 3 times along with her. Since she's out cold today, I might as well tell you everything." "What do you mean, lost memory? Following me for 20 years? Sylvia sighed again. "The fox is clueless, but please don't you be clueless too. Victoria is over 2,000 years old. She was cast out at 500 and stayed here in the fox den with Sylvia for over 1,000 years. She rarely went out. Her last trip to the human world was during a feudal era. Back then, society was governed by strict feudal ethics and Confucianism ruled the day. The fox transformed into a human and stayed for a few years, but found it dull and returned. Consequently, her mindset is still stuck in that time-strict gender segregation. Propriety forbids touching. Add to that the missing love thread, making her emotionally slow. The little fox hadn't interacted with a single male creature in 2,000 years. She went out again because, at over 2,000 years old, the impure energy within her became too strong, requiring her to revert to her original form for cultivation. Urged by Sylvia, the fox ventured out, dragging her large tail. That's when she first encountered a little human boy. She was indifferent to the massive changes in the human world. All she noticed was that the child, only 5 or 6, pulled her tail with surprising strength. So, the fox bit him. The child cried, and she let go. But then she felt he was crying too pitifully, so she brought him a flower. He stopped crying. The fox returned home, completed her first transformation, and lost all memory of her time in fox form. Anyone she encountered also had their memory wiped. There were 2 more transformations required. The second time she met him again. The boy was 12 now, sitting on the ground crying because he was lost, his eyes wide and confused. The fox was on her way somewhere and shouldn't have bothered, but she thought he cried too wretchedly, not very manly at all. She turned back, bit his clothes, and led him home. Another time, the boy was 16 or 17, a young man now. This time he wasn't crying but was cornered by some young thugs looking for trouble. Logically, she shouldn't have interfered, no reason to. but she stopped anyway. Perhaps she felt such a clean-cut, handsome young man shouldn't be treated that way. The thug saw her red eyes, thought she was a rabid dog, and ran off terrified. The fox was speechless, but, well, problem solved. This time, the young man stared at her, slowly walked over, and patted her head. "Thanks," he said, then walked away without a second glance, as if she were just some stray dime-a-dozen fox. She stood silently for a moment before returning to the fox den, forgetting this memory too. Only later did she feel a sudden, intense desire to go out into the world. And so, the fox got a name, an identity, Victoria Ashwood. Like smoke, like a dream, all memories scattered like mist. She didn't remember. Victoria Ashwood didn't understand love. It wasn't until Sincere Clark told her he was breaking up with her. She didn't even know what that meant until she searched it online, that it hit her violently. He didn't want her anymore. In her panic, she couldn't suppress her demonic power and stormed the bar, determined to drag him back, even if by force. Even with repeated memory loss, she couldn't escape her destiny, wanting him, being drawn to him. A fox's destiny is their beloved. The stupid fox is just too poisoned by feudal values, Sylvia concluded her story. She thinks "I like you" can only be said within the promise of marriage. She's truly clueless. She didn't dare get close to you. You thought she was cold, but she was afraid of crossing boundaries. Only when the pressure got too intense and the mark appeared did she dare to be a little bold with you. I sat in the courtyard, somewhat angry, Sylvia's blunt assessment echoing in my head. No wonder Victoria was sometimes full of desire. What a stupid fox. Suddenly a hand covered my eyes, carrying that familiar faint scent of osmanthus. I turned, looked down, and pulled her into a hug. "You're awake, huh, stupid fox?" Victoria looked surprised. "Why are you suddenly so forward? Should I wait?" I countered. "Wait for you to grow back that missing piece of your mind?" She blinked her large eyes and answered earnestly, "Sincere Clark, I'm not missing a piece of my mind." She looked up at me. "I'm missing a love thread. Sylvia Thorne probably told you, right?" "Yeah." My arms tightened around her waist. My voice was low. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? If that mark hadn't flared up that day, were you really planning to just let me run away?" Victoria whispered, "No, I wouldn't have. If you really had run away, I might have. Never mind. I don't know what I would have done. Before I met you, everything in my eyes was dull, muted. Even when my clan kicked me out, it took a long time for me to realize how sad it was. But then you appeared, bursting into my world so full of life and energy. It was as if all the things that had lost their color in my eyes were just foreshadowing, waiting for me to meet you. At my persistent request, Victoria finally agreed to change the silver bell into a pendant for me to wear around my neck. "Aren't you afraid I'll get mad one day and smash it?" I teased her. "Then you'd be done for." She shook her head. "It won't happen, because someone who likes me cannot harm it." Later, Victoria Ashwood and I got engaged. I placed a silver ring on her finger, engraved with an ancient, serene pattern, like a spell or intertwined vines. Once she put it on, she almost never took it off. It wasn't until much, much later, when our own little fox was old enough to run errands, that I looked at my own unchanging face and realized a human lifespan is but a blink of an eye to a spirit like her. To Victoria, near eternal life was far too long, so she shared it with me. I became the first human to be with a nine-tailed fox, and I became her missing love thread. The human world is too noisy, the sanctuary beyond too quiet. The little fox who had guarded her lonely solitude for 1,000 years finally laid a clumsy trap and waited for a foolish scholar to fall in love with her. And from then on, for her, the world came back to life.